Dobro jutro. Good morning, everybody. Allow me also just to recognize briefly the generosity of the Transatlantic Leadership Network and the Atlantic Council in organizing this event. I think the only people who feel it more acutely than our office are our colleagues at the host government embassies here in Washington that recognize the importance and the rarity of having these opportunities to kind of come together, talk about these issues, and raise their profile in Washington and among the international community. Unfortunately, there's some events going on in the world right now that are helping do that all by themselves. I'd like to say, I think it's appropriate that we're meeting here in the Library of Congress. I'm sure a lot of you already know that this institution got its start because of the generosity and interest of some of our founding fathers, principally John Adams, and later Thomas Jefferson, who sold his own collection of over 6,000 books after the original holdings of the infant library were burned by the British in 1814. Since then, this institution has grown into an archive, a depository for the living history, culture, the story of the United States of America. But it's not just a place where scholars come to learn and study, but it's also a place where they're trying to say what happened in the past and what can we learn from it. And there's probably a lesson there also for all of us. I also want to congratulate Montenegro, today commemorating also their statehood day. The president sent a letter to newly elected President Milatovic in which he said the United States continues to support Montenegro as it works to build a stable and inclusive multi-ethnic democracy, capable of implementing reforms to advance its EU accession and fight corruption. That applies to all countries in the Western Balkans, right? Not just Montenegro. And the election of President Milatovic and the parliamentary elections that follow, in our view, are a hopeful signal, a sign that at least some corners of the region, we're turning the corner on the past and looking to a new generation of leaders. Many of you are here today representing your countries to help find solutions to these seemingly intractable problems. The topics that you're going to be talking about today tell, in large part, I think despite what Dan said, which unfortunately it is still hard to get around in the Western Balkans, as you guys all know even better than me, it's a positive story, right? A lot of progress has been made since the mid-90s, but there's obviously a lot more to do. And if we're talking about recent cyber attacks on our countries, that has implications not only for vulnerable Western Balkans nations, but also, frankly, for the NATO alliance, given alliance members have been subjects of these attacks. These vulnerabilities are real. Energy reliance, particularly on Russia, as we've been talking about many of your countries and many of your governments already for many years, these vulnerabilities also are real. Corruption is a corrosive influence that undermines the confidence of the citizens of the region in the prospects of a better future for themselves and their children. And so many of them are voting with their feet, and they decided to leave. There are real challenges in the region, which my boss, Gabe Escobar, is very, very focused on. Most principally, how do we reduce tensions and get back on the track of normalizing relations between Serbia and Kosovo? What are we, and by we I mean the international community and the region, prepared to do to push back on those who would revive the ghost of violence and tensions inside Bosnia and Herzegovina, who are challenging its sovereignty, its territorial integrity, its multi-ethnic character? these are not challenges that the United States could resolve on its own, even if we wanted to. And while we remain very invested in the region, at the end of the day, as you heard in the President's message and in the title of your discussion today, this is, in large part about how can we help the Western Balkans get closer to each other and closer to Europe. And for us, that is in our strategic interest. And that's why we've been supportive of a range of initiatives across the region, including Open Balkan. Not because we adhere to any particular bilateral political agenda, but because we are supportive of anything that helps bring the region closer to Europe. But ultimately, this can't be a one-way street. It has to be a two-way. There has to be investment on a personal level, on a financial level, on a political level. There has to be willingness to lead at the local level, or these initiatives can't succeed. It doesn't matter how much goodwill or interest there is in Washington or in Brussels. Finally, it seems to me that even the word transatlantic, and I'm not suggesting, Sasha, you need to change the name of your initiative, but trans comes from a time when the United States kind of thought about Europe as a place far away, removed. I mean, it means across, right? As I know very well from my time in Moldova with Transnistria. Maybe a better prefix that actually reflects the spirit of what we're doing and how the relationship has developed would be co, or con, or com, which means with, together, a co-Atlantic partnership, co-Atlantic investment, friendships. So I would just say, think about that somewhere in the back of your mind today as you guys are talking and working. And again, I think, as Zorn, as Dan said, while having discussions are good, having photo opportunities are good, sometimes the only way we can get representatives from all your countries together is when we have gatherings like this, right? But what is really important is what's going to happen afterwards. What can we do to help inspire the next generation, your generation, to not give up hope? As I said, to folks sitting at the table last night, and I've said to others at different times, as Tori Newland likes to say, hope is great, but it's not a strategy. You need hope, but that alone is not going to get you where you need to be. So, again, thank you to the organizers. I commend all of you for your interest and your presence here today, and I'll be very interested to see what the results come out of it. And again, we are going to be ready to partner with you and help you succeed. Thank you.